Hello again. Are you struggling with your chipping? If you are, I think the move can help you. Come back in a moment and I'll show you how. If you've been watching my channel over the last couple of weeks and months, I've been talking about a thing we call the move, which is basically the way that we change direction in the swing, make the so-called transition. What it's basically saying is that when you get to the top of your swing, you want to have this kind of feeling of almost kind of sitting on a bar stool before your feet press into the ground using shear forces to turn your hips. What this actually allows you to do is to keep far more inertia on the golf club through the downswing, and therefore to delay the release, get more pressure on the golf ball. It's win, 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 win. We can actually use this to help us chipping as well. I know a lot of you are out there are having trouble because you're catching the ground, and there's a couple of reasons for this. The first one is basically that there is a change in your distance from the ground, and also the timing of your swing through the golf ball is probably not as good as it could be. And I believe that the move will help you with both of these things. The first thing is basically if you are in any way kind of trying to spoon the ball up into the air, then you're very likely to catch the ground before you actually hit the ball. The second thing is that keeping your lower body stiff and not moving it, which a lot of teachers are telling you to do, is actually kind of cutting off this information highway, which is going from your body up to your small brain and back down into your body. And what we're doing by actually allowing our legs to move in this direction or in this way is we're actually creating ground forces that our small brain can actually use to time the movement. So what exactly do I want you to do here? It's pretty simple really. Instead of standing parallel to the golf ball, I want you to stand a little open with your feet a little bit closer together and even put your weight a little bit onto the left side. The reason for this is quite simple. I want to have my hips virtually turned almost towards the target at impact, so why not start with them a little bit towards the target? If I'm standing parallel, obviously I can take more backswing because my hips will rotate in the backswing, but I don't need to actually get a lot of backswing on chipping. So by getting the hips open, I'm actually making the follow through easier. I'm also put a little bit more weight on my lead foot. That is also basically just gives me a little bit more stability when I'm making the shot and gets me into that kind of lead side earlier because I'm basically starting there. Otherwise, the address position is pretty normal. The hands are forward. I've got them across from the left or the lead thigh there. Again, this is more or less where I want to be with the hands at impact, although I'm going to be turned a little bit further with the hips and with the upper body at impact when I get back to the golf ball. All of these things in the address position is just to try and make it as easy as possible to get back onto the golf ball with a nice clean strike. The backswing couldn't be easier. I'm just turning my upper body. Don't have really any feeling of turning my hips at all or using my legs. It's basically just turning this kind of triangle of arms, hands and shoulders back away from the golf ball until I feel I've got enough run up to actually get the golf ball to the target that I'm playing to. And then that's when the fun begins, because what I'm then going to do is get this little kind of feeling of sitting on the bar stool. Now here I'm thinking of a couple of centimeters away from my butt. So as I go, it really is a very, very minimal kind of movement. And then I'm immediately pressing against the ground and getting my hips turning. So the feeling or the movement looks a bit like this. Now, you can see quite a lot of movement here in my lower body, but you won't see an awful lot of movement in my head. And this is simply because my spine is actually bowing a little as I do this. And despite the pelvis actually moving a little bit up and down, my knees actually changing their angle to the ground, I'm actually not moving my head and chest very much away from the ball. And this is also helping me to get a nice clean strike on the golf ball. The final thing that I think you ought to look at is your wrists. You really don't want to be holding them stiff, as an awful lot of people are saying. If you get stiff wrists, you've got stiff arms, and anything that's stiff in a golf swing is basically also robbing the small brain of information and making it more difficult to time the shot. I'm not really scared of any wrist action in the swing anyway, because the inertia that I'm generating in the follow through is actually going to hold the wrist angle for me. And I don't mind the feeling of the hands just giving a little at the end of the backswing as the inertia starts to be applied to the club, and then releasing out into the back of the golf ball. So when I actually come into it, I really don't have a problem with that kind of feeling. Now, you might be able to see in the video that there is a very, very slight contact with the ground before the ball, but that's basically because the club's coming in pretty flat into the ball, so you're never going to catch it absolutely ball ground, and you don't need to, and you don't have to, and you shouldn't be really trying to. On the other hand, you might find that the ball is actually now going a little bit too far with the club that you have, so you might have to use a little bit more loft because you're being more dynamic than you usually are through the impact area. And this will mean getting used to taking the club back shorter and still accelerating through the ball. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm getting a little bit kind of ball or ground ball contact. And just by taking it back nice and shortly, I can really control this. Got a bit of a downhill lie here. But usually this kind of position right at the side of the green where the grass is short, this is where we're all getting a bit worried we're gonna scull it. And this is where you ought to be also practicing it. Make it difficult for yourself and trust really in this movement, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to hit the ball nice and cleanly, to get it going forward. And even the ones that are a little scuffy won't be as bad as they were before. You're not going to stop the club in the ground and get it kind of duffed a couple of feet, and you also won't be topping it over the green. I hope this helps you. As ever, if it has, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do that. Don't forget the little notification bell will tell you about videos to come. I'm going to leave a link again to Alex's channel. Again, I highly recommend you watch that. There's loads of great tips there from tour professionals who are telling you about their life on tour and the way that they practice the game of golf. All the best. I'll see you very soon. Until the next time, ciao.